Are you also going through a breakup in your 30s with the person you thought would last forever? Yeah, me too. In this video, I'll share 8 life-changing tools and techniques that you can use when you go through a breakup while feeling these really strong emotions so that you can maintain your daily life. And these tips are what I've found in grief research and what spiritual teachings say and my own experience as I'm going through it. And you might be thinking, why does this matter? But I realized that, imagine that you're on a boat at sea, you're alone, you have no idea where you are anymore, and a storm is coming in. The waves are getting heavier and the darkness is creeping in. Would you look at that situation and be like, this thing going on is a little bit too much for me, I'll just go inside and scroll on social media and the boat will probably take me safely to harbor by the morning anyway? Or would you look at that situation and be like, oh shit, this is really bad, how can I make the best I can just to survive so that I can get myself to harbor as quickly as possible? So the thing is, if we have no choice but to accept that the relationship is over, we are alone now, and we are dealing with emotions that are just as strong as these heavy waves, wouldn't it be wise to just implement some strategies that can help us just survive for this part of our life, or this moment, so that we don't spiral into depression or bitterness, and just get safely to harbor where the healing can happen later? So let's dive into the tips. I have my notes here, and this is how you can survive a breakup and prepare you for eventually moving on and feeling like yourself again. The second to last one is the most powerful, because that is the one that's based in research, so stay for that one. Tip number 1 is to exhale first when you panic. And when we go through a breakup, we often feel anxiety, and that can cause our chest to contract and we feel like we can't breathe, And it was this physiotherapist that told me this, and she said that the problem is that when we panic, we just inhale, which, I don't know why, but she said that the opposite is helpful. So she said that you should exhale first. So when you panic, your instinct is to inhale, but you should actually exhale. So you empty your lungs and you empty your stomach, everything, and you could also even bend forward to just squeeze everything out. And when you've done that, you hold, and then you feel like you can breathe in again. And you can do that for a couple of rounds, but not too many, because that can make you dizzy. Tip number 2 is reclaim your power. If your ex is putting on a shit show, if they are behaving poorly, you have every reason to feel upset. So what they've done is not okay. But what we can find is that if we say that I feel this way because of this, what this person says or does to me, we are now dependent on them to make us feel better. And when we are dependent on them, they hold the power. So it's actually, and if we stay in that state for a prolonged time, with hoping that they will ask for forgiveness or whatever, that creates a breeding ground for bitterness and resentment. And it only poisons ourselves. So even though we have every valid reason to be upset, let's just try to observe them, and then take action. We set boundaries, we choose how we relate to them, but we try to, detach. And if it's really hard to detach, if someone's really upsetting us, tip number 3 is going to help you. And tip number 3 is dance the fuck out of the emotion. And when we go through a breakup, it's pretty difficult sometimes to just, collect ourselves and stay in stillness meditation, because we are so bombarded with everything that's going on, everything that has to be done, or things from the past. So this movement meditation is actually more helpful, where we can use the anger as fuel in the dance. And we actually, how did I describe it here? We actually transform the emotion into peace and gratitude. So when we feel an overwhelming negative emotion like anger or sadness, we put on a song that matches the vibe of our emotion, preferably without lyrics, and we just dance. We shake. We cry. You can do anything to release. You dance out the emotion or move. You can even run. What did I write? What did I write here? Yeah, just that. And and when you start to feel calmer, you can switch a song to more loving or gratitude music and settle into your heart. So if you dance out anger, you also settle into the heart and center yourself afterwards. Tip number 4 is to simplify. So when we go through a breakup, it's obviously a lot of our energy is going to the situation. So it makes sense then to give us some slack and be nicer to ourselves and simplify our daily life. But it still means that so when you go through a breakup, you can either fall into two extremes. So the one extreme is where you don't do anything. You lay in bed, you're drowning in your sorrow, and you are completely unmotivated to do anything. On the other extreme of the spectrum, you overstimulate yourself. Distract yourself immensely not to feel the pain. And we want to be somewhere in the middle. We don't want to completely lose it. We don't want to overdo it either. So we still eat, clean, work out, go to work, meet friends during this state. But for example, we might not cook super nutritious meals. We might settle for just something easy, or we work out, but we aren't hard on ourselves and push ourselves to hit gym goals. And we work, but we don't expect ourselves to perform on top. So and I think it's really important to keep meeting friends and family and be very clear on keeping it low-key and not expecting them to solve our problems. We can just ask them to sit in the mud with us, as Simon Sinek says. So I really like that. Tip number 5 is something that really helped me, and it's to identify if it's attachment or love that we feel. And according to the Buddhist monk Tenzin Palmo Yetsunma, there is a difference between attachment and genuine love. Attachment involves grasping, clinging, holding tightly to the other person, and that is causing pain, fear of loss, whereas genuine love really desires the other one's happiness, even though we are not in the picture. However, losing someone we genuinely love can still feel extremely painful. But I noticed that if I understood if I'm feeling attachment or love, it really helps me understand my emotions more, and it will help me move on later. And if you realize that it's attachment that you feel, maybe it's easier to be like, okay, maybe I could let go. Tip number 6 is using universal laws to your favor. And you might have heard about the law of attraction, but there are apparently a lot of other laws out there that governs the results in our lives. And according to Bob Proctor, here are two other ones, and how you can relate it to this breakup situation. The first law is the vacuum law of prosperity, and it says that you must create space for the good in life that you desire. So for example, if you want to have a new sofa, you have to get rid of the old sofa before you can put in a new one. And the same goes for a relationship. If you really want to meet the love of your life, someone who matches you perfectly, you have to be able to let go of the old relationship. The next law is the law of relativity, and it says that everything is relative. You know, nothing is neither big nor small until you compare it to something. Everything just is until you compare it to something. You know, is this sofa big or small? Well, it depends. So after a breakup, there is a void. There is a emptiness that can be felt. You know, the person is physically gone. Their opinions are gone. Their company at the dinner table is gone. You know, their stuff, everything is gone. So they create this void, and that can feel extremely scary to, you know, to be in. But with this law of relativity, you can just see that it just is a void, and we can consciously choose if it's a void full of potential or if it's a void full of lack and loneliness. And if we can be courageous enough to sit in that void and just imagine and start thinking, what do we want to put into it? What kind of people, what kind of objects, what kind of habits or activities and experiences do we want to add into our lives now that we have the opportunity? So it's really a perspective. Okay, tip number 7 is speak your heart out if it's safe. So according to the Grief Recovery Handbook, the reason why we can't let go of someone is because the relationship is incomplete. And they say that the more unexpressed emotions we have in a relationship, the more incomplete it is. And they make an analogy to a tea kettle. And a well-functioning tea kettle, you know, as it starts to boil, the steam is coming out of the top. But if we plug the top, the steam has nowhere to go, and the pressure starts to build, and eventually it explodes. But by learning how to release the pressure in a controlled manner, you know, release our emotions through verbalizing them, we feel better, and the kettle, which is our body, will be kept intact. So in order to create the best conditions for you to be able to move on later, to complete the relationship, is to start verbalizing your emotions. And it doesn't only have to be what you feel in the moment, it's also what you felt throughout the relationship. And if you can express this to your partner before the separation, that's amazing. But if they're already out of your life, if they don't want to listen, or if it's unsafe for you to express these things, don't do it. But if it is safe and they are willing to listen, you know, try to express all pain, all grief, jealousy, you know, crushed dreams that you're experiencing now, you know, that won't happen. You know, and also express emotions of gratitude, you know, thank them for what they've done, what they've gifted you throughout the relationship, what you loved about them, or your time together. You can apologize for the times you messed up that you haven't already. You can also ask for clarity of their behavior and their choices or feelings. So, but bear in mind that if you are unable to express these emotions without, disrespect or anything. So if you can't say it in a respectful and delicate way, keep it to yourself for now. We don't want to cause further harm to them, to the situation, or worsen anything. Like, regardless of what they've done, we don't want to do that. And we don't want to demand them to forgive us or expect them to apologize for anything. The goal is just to send out your emotions. Tip number 8 is cut all contact. The question is, when you separate, is like, should you stay friends or not? And the answer is no. It's just no, unless you have children. It's not to be ruthless, but it's to help you heal your heart. And I believe that even if you have been basically roommates for 2 years and you know that there will be zero romance between you ever again, I think it's really a bad idea. Because think of this, you actually keep the attachment if you keep the person in your life. And you also don't use the vacuum law. You don't get rid of the old to bring in new. You keep it for some reason, and I don't really understand why. I think it's just unnecessary. So remove them from social media. Don't call them if you feel lonely. Call your friend instead. Don't have coffee or anything with his family or friends. It's a goodbye. The end. After implementing these tips, you'll notice a significant change in your internal state, and the magnitude of the downs will be less deep every day, until one day you reach the shore, and you realize the innate strength that you have. The amazing thing is that when I started implementing these, I went from crying every single day, and I didn't leave my apartment, I didn't call any friends, I didn't do anything, to now feel more okay. Like that, yeah, it definitely have decreased the magnitude of the downs, and I feel a lot more stable. I'm like, it's still painful in some sense, but I feel like, okay, I'm gonna get through this and it's gonna be pretty good. And I think the most difficult part for me has been to be able to let go of a good man. But I realized that just because someone is a good person doesn't mean that it's a right fit. And even the right decision can feel painful. Yeah. Okay, so now we've been on this boat together. It's been a lovely time, and I would love to hear if you have any tips for me on how to survive a breakup. Let's get through this together. Okay, bye.